Gather round, friends new and old, and welcome to the POWWOW podcast. I am your host, David.
And I'm your host, Philip.
Well, it's good to be here, Philip. I've switched accents entirely.
Yes, you have, my boy.
I'm excited to be here now, and we're going to talk about all kinds of things.
Well, the kinds of things that we're going to be talking about, we probably shouldn't be doing these accents and voices, but
we are entirely in the wrong regions.
Yes, we are. What's your best New York accent?
Look, I did a show a couple years ago 2 years ago, just before the pandemic, and I had to play someone who was, he was the hobo on the train, and he was supposed to be from New York. And this guy came up to me like it was our last show or the last day of the show, and he says, "So where you from, Brooklyn?" And I was like, "Nope, not at all. I'm from South Africa."
Nicely done. Bravo.
I'm sure
friend.
there's somebody going, "That's terrible." Someone listening to this right now, but you know what? I'm under pressure right now. I got the compliment from that one guy, so I'm happy.
And that's all you needed. Yes. Oh, by the way, I do have an amendment/addendum to our episode last week. So again, keep in mind with everything going on, it was brought to my attention, and I didn't consider this at first because just of how natural I feel it is, at least in my life. But I do collect DVDs. I have a DVD collection, and I try to always upkeep that. And I'm transitioning from DVD into Blu-ray. It's a consistent Christmas theme that I have, that my family does. So I have DVDs, ones that I like. There's no particular rhyme or reason to. I have so many John Travolta DVDs because there was a phase where I just loved John Travolta growing up. Yeah, that's my addendum. That's something that happened this week that I was made very aware of. David, how was your week?
My week was better than last week. Well, I had a oh my God, so mixed actually. On Thursday, I arrived at work, and every Monday and Thursday we take self-COVID test, an antigen test. So I was the first one at the office. I, made myself a cup of coffee. I turned on the dishwasher, turned on the light, and I went over to I started unpacking the test kit, did a test. Oh my God. I started to see that obviously the control line started appearing, and then the other line started appearing, and I was like, no, don't fucking do this to me, man. And it was positive. And I couldn't believe it was positive because I am very careful. Not that means that you can't catch the virus, obviously, but I was just shocked. So I did another one. I was like, I have to do another one. And that one also came up positive. So I was like, oh no.
Wow.
Oh no.
Oh my God.
So I left immediately, had to go home. Someone had to come pick me up because I'm obviously not allowed on public transport because I'm probably COVID positive. And so I booked a test. Someone had picked me up, took me, and then I took my PCR test, and then I went into isolation for the rest of the day. And I was just depressed and miserable. People had to cancel vacation plans who'd been in contact with me. And then that evening, in isolation, I check my email, test results are in, I click on the link, and it's negative. And I was like, what the hell? So I took another self-test. That came up negative. And then I was like, I have to book another PCR. I have to know for sure. So I booked another PCR for the following morning, did it. The following evening, another negative result. I was baffled because I had Googled what are the chances of false positives with antigen tests. And false negatives happen all the time. But false positives are extremely rare. Which means that, I don't know, I got 2 in a row. I figured that there was something in my system, some molecule that sort of triggered the test. The molecule that the test detects on the virus was obviously, maybe something was in my system, or it was a faulty batch of tests. I don't know, but it was kind of this fluke event where I tested positive twice, even though I didn't have the virus.
Maybe you came into contact with somebody who had it. I don't even know.
But then why would I test positive and then test negative?
Yeah.
None of it made sense to me. Still, it's a mystery how it happened, but luckily I'm okay. Never got symptoms, obviously, because I never had the virus. And yeah, but then the following day, Saturday, South Africa beat the Lions in the second match out of 3. So now it's Lions 1, South Africa 1, all to play for next weekend. Tune in if you're interested. 6 p.m. Central European time, 9 a.m. LA time. Yeah, very excited for that. So it's been an up and down week.
Yes, with its high highs and low lows.
Yes.
Bobbity booby. Anyways, all right, we move along with that transition to our main topic this week, and we're gonna go LA versus New York. Now, this is somewhere that both of us have lived in each place. Wait, didn't you have to do a semester?
Nope, never lived in New York.
Wait, how did you get away with not doing a semester in New York?
If I would have had to do 2 semesters in New York, if I would have either had to do my first 2 or my last 2 in New York because of the program that I was in. So if you're doing the BFA program at AMDA, you can do your 3rd semester and just your 3rd semester. And I would have done that if I was in the BFA program, but I was in the conservatory program, which means that I would have had to do my first 2 or my last 2. They don't let you go for 1.
Oh.
Yeah.
Oh.
And I didn't want to do before I moved to LA, I was just in love with the idea of living in LA. So I moved to LA, not New York.
Of course.
And then I didn't want to graduate in New York because I knew I wanted to be in LA afterwards.
I am amiss of this complete point, but I've lived in both LA and New York.
Right. So your opinions are going to be, yes, I've been there multiple times. So your opinions are going to be more valid on certain topics than mine, for sure.
But
that doesn't mean I don't have opinions.
Oh, no. We have very strong opinions, even in spite of that. But LA versus New York. And we've got a couple things, since both of us have very heavy ties to this, at the very least, especially you with acting. And of course, there is going to always be that competition between the 2 sides of the coast. And we're going to go through our questions, our segments that we feel were necessary on going on this LA versus New York, and also maybe some of the experiences that we had while in these cities. First one, and of course these are all under the bubble of which city is better for living in. LA versus New York. David, why don't you go first, since I have more experience on this, and I can probably curb or what have you.
So there are parts of me that have thought about New York as a place to live, but here's the main point for me. Weather. Weather, man. Yeah. New York has the same climate, or a similar climate at least, to where I live right now and where I grew up for the most part, and I am done. Give me the sunshine, please. And that's not to say that it doesn't get kind of cold sometimes in California. That's fine, but I can't do the rain, man. All that rain. Granted, I will say California, not enough rain, but New York, way too much rain. Not interested. So that's a big one for me. Let's look at, cost of living as well. I know that both cities are extremely expensive, but I think that LA has much more affordable areas that aren't like way outside the city. And that's just my perception. Obviously, I've never really investigated that for New York. What about you? You share your thoughts here.
So I've lived in both. The reason why I should address at the beginning of this conversation, we both were a part of the same college program, AMDA, and my college program, my experience was entirely in New York. So when I went there and I lived there, I was a part of it, and luckily I had dorms, but there's not really dorms when you're in the heart of New York. It was glorified apartments is what it really was. And so
they were tiny as well.
But it was a true experience. Dude, they were so freaking... you literally had to share... How can I put this efficiently? So imagine like a bathroom, like a normal bathroom if you're out and about somewhere, like not even like a massive theater bathroom. Just think of like a Circle K bathroom, or maybe like an In-N-Out bathroom. What's something like a Whataburger bathroom? Think of that type of size, so that way you have context. And then on top of that, it's a bunk bed situation. So there's 2 of you inside of this bathroom. That's not the standard living situation for people actually living there. This was just my experience.
It does sort of bring up a good point, though, is space. Like, yeah, LA is expensive, but you are going to get a little bit more space for your money. My last apartment in LA was actually pretty sizable.
Very
like
spacious.
For what I was
spacious.
paying. If I was paying that in New York, I would get maybe half of a tiny little room.
That is one thing that helps me lean towards LA. Another, you said weather. I think that will vary from person to person because you're going to get a lot of weather in New York. I was there when there was a hurricane. I got rain much here. That was the first time I lived in snow. I didn't have a car, and that's another thing. If you want to have a car, if you're a person who's used to having a car, like I am coming from Arizona and even living in LA for a small amount of time, you don't own a car in New York. At least if you're in the major metropolis areas, you don't own a car. The people who own a car are Jeff Bezos because it's just far too much to park. It's far too much to find parking, let alone pay for it. And then to house a car, to have it like in an apartment, it's unfathomably expensive. Everybody uses transportation. So for some reason, you can't walk everywhere. That just doesn't work for you. And walking around in inclement weather, whatever it may be, again, you're looking towards LA versus New York. Third thing for me, I would say one thing that does lean New York, and we'll get into this more, I feel, later, is the character. New York does have a lot of character and personality that LA, in my experience, doesn't necessarily have, because a lot of the places that you'll explore, a lot of the places that you'll be in and walking around, while yes, they are inviting, they can very much be touristy. They can be very much superficial. In LA, New York, all authentic, regardless of whatever you want, it will completely be unapologetically New York through and through. So there is that.
Yeah, look, here's another thing. The people. I think that there's a lot to say about people in both cities, but at least this is one thing I liked about LA, that you see so much of New York, even if you don't live there, is that in pretty much any other city in the world, New York is the only place where you're going to hear people go, New York is the greatest fucking city in the world. You know, you don't get that in other cities. And it's like, dude, shut up.
That's a turnoff for you.
Yeah, that's a big turnoff for me. Like at least in LA, people like it there. It's nice. It's a fun city to live in. Not everyone, obviously, but no one's like obsessed with the city being the greatest city in the world or anything like that. So,
so I think we both have agreed that LA, for us and for our tastes, is the better place to live in, just for what we want. But there are other things. Next one, better place to vacation. Now, I would say that there's a huge asterisk coming in, and it's going to depend a lot on where you're coming from. I think the better place to vacation is going to be different if you're coming from Ohio versus if you're coming from Las Vegas, or if you're abroad,
perhaps.
Yeah, sure. I think that those are two different.
Psychopath like you who hates the beach.
Well, maybe. So we go to vacation. I guess I'll start. For me, I'm actually going to say the better place to vacation is going to be New York. And here's why. One, for my sleep schedule, it actually works a lot better in New York. Things are open way late. Again, you'll find a lot of character. And if we're going to character, I love the fact about the one thing I really loved about New York. And I've said this many times, and I'll continue to say it for the rest of my life. Never before have I ever been a place that is so vibrant and so versatile from street to street. Literally, you can walk down one street going uptown, and it's like their local Chinatown. Then we go up to the next street, and it's a complete dump. Like there's cats, there's homeless people about. It smells like natural human depositories. Then you go to the next one, and it's all flowers. It's a garden everywhere. Everybody hangs a garden. And then the next one beyond that's like an entire, like they're playing street hockey. It's completely, it blows your mind. And there's so much character that you can get from street to street to street in such a small amount of space that once you even include Broadway, whenever you want to include Insomnia Cookies, that's open like 24 hours a day, there's so much to do there that you could never do all in one thing, that LA is very much, if you need to relax, if beach life is what you're aiming for and consistent weather and just beautiful weather, Of course, you can't beat LA, but I would argue that you'll have a more individualistic time in New York that you will be able to remember and be able to have a varied experience that won't be able to be completed within one trip.
I take your point, but I will say, like, you get that very much so in Los Angeles. The difference being that you don't turn a corner, you drive 10 minutes, you know?
Well, right. Yeah, but
I mean, that's I mean, I guess like it's a walking city versus a driving city. So you do get lots of varied, like there's such diversity in Los Angeles, not just literal diversity, but like diversity of experience in Los Angeles. It's just a little bit more spread out, but that's just the nature of the city.
Sure.
The one thing I will say about New York, people say a lot that New York is dirty, and that may be true. But man, is nowhere near as dirty as Los Angeles, in my experience. I was expecting New York to be very dirty, and it wasn't by any means nearly as dirty as what I was used to in LA. So
it's true.
That's a big point for me. Like I like that the city, and it's the smell too, because this is a benefit of rain, is that it kind of washes away the filth down into the sewers, whereas in LA it just sort of sits as in a layer on the ground because it never freaking rains there.
To appeal to your acting side, Broadway is something to behold, man. If you've never been,
I've been.
Is such, of course, yes. But I'm saying, if you've never been to a Broadway show, I get it. LA has high quality shows as well. I'm not trying to, we're nitpicking here. But
Sure.
For me, like to have just that selection, I remember when I was younger.
No, I'm with you there.
Yeah.
I'm with you there.
Yeah, I remember when I was younger, I always thought Broadway was just like a blown up movie theater complex where, because my mind couldn't grasp it, that it was just, Broadway wasn't just one building. So I thought it was like, on the first floor, they're playing Anything Goes. On the second level, it's Chicago. And then on the third floor is Cats, whatever it is. No, it's just, it's completely beautiful that it's that spread out.
And LA's a movie city, right? It's the center of the film industry, really, film and TV. But you can't experience that as a tourist if you're on vacation in that city.
Right.
Like you can do a studio tour, but there's only so many studio tours you can do. When you do one, you don't actually see that much, and they're all kind of samey. Like every studio tour that you go on, you're not gonna like. They're just not that impressive. Fun, sure, and worth doing, maybe. I've actually never done one, but I've been to the studio lots, and I'm pretty sure I've seen what they see.
I've been to one. It's all right.
I mean, they're all like. I think that there are some cool things that you see, like on the Paramount lot. There's a thing called New York Street, which is literally a street that looks just like New York. And so anytime they need to film stuff that takes place in New York, they do it on New York Street in the Paramount lot.
Right.
So there's cool stuff like that, but it's not the same as when you visit New York and you have the opportunity to see so many actual live shows. That's an experience. And to counter that, like going to the movies in LA, I mean, you can go to the movies anywhere. So
I think it boils down to LA does have the character, does have the personality that New York has. Well, in its own way, it's different, of course. But you have to go there. You have to drive there. You have to plan it out to go there, and you have to find it. You have to do some legwork to find it.
You have to know the spots that you're going to. So like you're not going to stumble upon that kind of character.
No. New York, it will literally just hit you in the face. You'll just be walking down and you'll say, oh, that's interesting. I want to go check that out, because you can't miss it. You can walk by and just see everything. It's absolutely, it's astounding in that way. So I will vote for New York for best place to vacation.
Sure.
Where do you vote?
And I, as much as like I've loved my vacations in New York, my trips to New York have been amazing. I've loved them. But and there's a lot of plus points, but for me, the vibe, the LA, the opportunities to do things, the weather, there's a little bit of nature there as well. Like you have city, you have the hiking trails and the mountains and stuff. That's all part of the experience, and the beach and the ocean, and that wins by a mile for me.
So we move along to which city is better to live in as an actor?
I worry that we're not going to be able to say anything groundbreaking here, actually have any debate here. Where do you stand?
I think we will, actually, only because, well, of course, the biggest separation is going to be, are you more interested to be a film actor or a stage actor? Obviously, that's stereotypical, but that doesn't mean it's completely isolated. There are, of course, things that shoot in New York. There are things that shoot that are staged in LA. You can certainly find that. However, and this might surprise you, I will go back to New York. And here's why. I think if you are that much more dedicated to your craft, I think that New York will bring that out of you. Because art is from a place of emotion, New York will certainly do that, because the fact that you're having to work so hard and get back so little automatically creates so much strife. Whereas in LA, it is, of course, you're still having to work hard. You're having everything else. But there's just this overlying aura of relaxation. There's this overlying aura of too much to do. Like, there's such a social life. Whereas New York, everything's so rushed, so fast paced that you're just going from one audition to the next, and you're like, it's hard because you put your DeLuca shoes in a puddle, and now they're wet, and now you have to go do a tap number with slightly torn shoes, and you got to get through that. Whereas in LA, I feel like that's where a lot of people I have seen in my experience, in my friend group, I've seen them gone astray in LA because there's just so much to do that there are so many distractions. Where would you go?
I want to look at this from a perspective of a versatile actor who wants to do both theater and film, TV, whatever, which is not really me. Like, I as much as I want to do theater, and I will continue to do theater, it's not my primary objective. But from that perspective, the LA theater scene, there is theater in LA. There is high caliber theater. Sorry, high caliber theater in LA, and it is less competitive. I'll say that. And obviously, a lot of big New York shows hold auditions in LA as well, which is great. But the theater scene in LA doesn't by any means even come close to comparing to New York. And maybe there's people out there who disagree with me, but I doubt it. It doesn't really come close. Whereas the film and TV scene in New York is maybe not as lucrative as LA, but it's huge. It's not small by any means. There's a ton of film and TV opportunities in New York City as well. So I would say that New York holds a lot more potential. Then comes the people, and I can't speak to the people you meet in New York who are in the industry, who are actors. And I'll say that I'd say 95% of the people that I meet in LA who are actors are fantastic and are supportive and like mutually supportive, and they're great people. But you do meet a lot of real a-holes in Los Angeles. Like, I remember being at a party and let me say, when I say I had just started professionally acting, I graduated, and this was like 2 months later or something, a month later. I did not have an agent. I'd done a couple student short films, some background work. That was it. And this guy, and some theater. I'd done some theater in Los Angeles. And I meet this guy at this party, and I'm like, oh, what do you do? He's like, oh, I'm an actor. I was like, oh yeah, me too. And his first question is, oh, are you ready for pilot season? I guess maybe, I don't know if I'm really conveying how much of an asshole this guy was, but it was the way he said it, and his whole vibe and attitude was just like, oh, get off your giant pony.
High horse.
I don't know if I want to say high horse. Just get off your crystal spaceship and like meet me down here in the real world. Stop being it just frustrated me, and I've met a lot of people like that who are just like, oh yeah, I'm killing it, I've just booked this blah blah blah, and sort of they like to rub it in. They like to talk about how amazing they are, and I appreciate humility. And again, I don't know what it's like in New York, but that's something that bothers me about a lot of LA people.
So you would agree with me then to live for an actor, New York?
I mean, yes, I wouldn't live in New York for all the other reasons that I've stated, the expense for one, and the weather.
Oh my God, yes.
And how much I do love like the California lifestyle and the beach and all that. But as an actor, as a neutral actor, especially if you have an interest in both theater and film and TV, then yeah, probably New York.
Go to our last one here. Which city is better for the food.
Mm-hmm.
David, would you like to go first?
Yeah, I'm a little torn. I've had amazing food in New York. Like I've had good food in New York. I will say, every time someone's told me you got to try New York pizza, I've been like excited about it. And then when I first visited New York, I tried New York pizza, and I was like, "This is it. This is what people have been trying to sell me for like decades. This
God,
is
you know
the
what
New York
happens?
Pizza. Are you kidding me? You can get that same,
and the grease pulls up.
It's like, it's not bad. Like, I get what it is. Like, it's this weird giant pizza. It's like this way bigger pizza where you don't even eat the whole thing. You eat like a few slices, or maybe you do. But and like, yeah, I mean, it's okay. It's not as good as Neapolitan pizza. Bite me. I've never tried Chicago deep dish, whatever the that is.
It's pretty good, man. Pretty good.
No. Like, it's not exclusive to New York by any means. You can get pretty much the exact same thing in most major cities, including cities outside of the United States. I don't understand why anyone would think that the pizza in New York is somehow superior. But there is great food there. Depends how much you're willing to spend. But there's great food in New York. But nothing beats like the Mexican food options that you have in California, and more so in San Diego, but also in LA. There's just some amazing fusion foods, because LA is a city with such, and maybe you have this in New York. I'm sure that's probably the case, but like, there's just so many different like pockets in LA of like Korean and Chinese and Japanese and Italian and Armenian and Ethiopian, and there's just, and obviously Mexican. And so you get these fusion foods, you get a lot of experimental foods. But for me, it's mainly like the Mexican foods. There's a place called Sonoritas in Sawtelle in Los Angeles, and on Sawtelle Boulevard. And that place has the most amazing steak and shrimp burrito I've ever had. Ah, man, I want to go back and have it so bad. No, I have to say I would edge LA, just because it has everything that I've had in New York. I've had also in LA. So I'm gonna go with Los Angeles, hands down.
Look, David, I could give you a reason saying, oh, New York has better steak options, has better Italian options, and that's true. Or I could say, man, just everything else is kind of average, and LA just happens to have better everything else, which is again kind of true. And I could even go, the bars in LA, oh, they're out of this world. Or I could even say, man, the specialized restaurants, there's a reason why the celebrities go there. I could say all these things, but you know what it's going to boil down for me? You know, and I hate to make it this simplistic, but it really just boils down to this.
Is it burgers?
In-N-Outs in LA, and as great as Shake Shack is, and God, it is good, but as great as it is, it's no mother flipping In-N-Out. In-N-Out.
No, it's definitely not. And it's also, Shake Shack is in LA as well. So
I know. So it's not even exclusive anymore.
Right.
In-N-Out makes LA that much better. I'm so sorry that it boils down to something something so ridiculous. But whenever you're living on a shoestring budget like I have for the past 27 years, something like that really friggin' matters. So forget it all. The rest, it goes to LA simply because of In-N-Out.
Oh,
David, are you all right?
What was that? Oh my God. I think something it bit me.
Oh, God, I love it. I love it so much.
Oh, yes. You are familiar with this segment. And if you're not, this is basically controversial opinions that we would like to share with you, the listener. And if you don't like it, you can go ahead and bite me. I'll go first. Red, white, and blue. Here's a message to all you United Statesers out there. Red, white, and blue is not unique to your country. I don't have a problem with you being proud of your red, white, and blue, but oh my God, stop thinking that red, white, and blue automatically means the United States of America, because it It really doesn't. And I don't know why you guys think it's so special. Let me list off the countries that have red, white, and blue in their flag, and only red, white, and blue. Are you ready?
I'm ready.
Australia, Cambodia, Chile, Costa Rica, Croatia, Cuba, Czech Republic, Dominican Republic, Fiji, France, Iceland, Laos, Liberia, Luxembourg, Nepal, the Netherlands, which, by the way, literally has 3 stripes in this order: red, white, blue. New Zealand, Norway, North Korea, guys, Panama, Paraguay, Russia, Samoa, Serbia, Slovakia, Slovenia, Thailand, and the United Kingdom. So there you go. 28 other countries have red, white, and blue as their colors. So go ahead and shut up, and while you're at it, bite me.
I always think of French. My opinion, I know as controversial as this is, and a lot of fashionistas out there are going to get real mad about me and just roll their eyes. They might not even get mad. They might just say, all right, way to go. But damn, if socks and sandals are not one of the comfiest combos, I get it, it's a fashion sin, but if it's a sin, I don't want to be holy. Good God. Look, my feet, I'm not willing to not be admitting things on here. My feet get a little sweaty. They get a little sweaty. So whenever I wear things, I like to have socks in there. Otherwise, no matter what form of sandals I wear, it either gets a little slidey or it gets a little sticky. So I like to have socks in there to create a layer of separation. I know I'm not doing that to go out and pick up people. I'm not doing that to go out and impress people. I'm not wearing socks and sandals to an interview. I at least have the common decency to know that. But if I'm going around and I'm walking around with socks and sandals, if you don't like it, you know what you can do? You can just come up to me in the in and out line and bite me. We talked about LA and New York this week, but that's not the only countries, my good Lord. Those are not the only cities in the United States. So we thought it might be beneficial of us to at least list 2 of our other favorite cities in the U.S. that aren't the LA or New York cities that we have gone on and on about earlier in our main topic. David, would you like to start us with one of your favorite 2 cities? I believe the caveat you wanted to add was that we had to have been there before.
Yes. And like I will say, I mean, there aren't that many cities that I've spent a lot of time in the US. I wanted to say Boston, but truth be told, I only spent 1 night there. And as much as I loved it, I don't know how much I could actually say about it that's actually informed information. So I've spent way too much time in Lexington, Kentucky and Cincinnati, Ohio. And I will say wholeheartedly, those are not my favorite cities.
Man.
And yeah, there's some great cities though. There's some great cities all over the US that I love, but I'm going to say Orlando. And there's really not that much I can say about Orlando, but these are the things that I like about Orlando. And the first one is the big one, right? It's the main thing. I like having the parks all clustered around the city, and you've got so many options. If you live in Orlando and you get bored, it's your own fault because there's so much. Like if you're resident there, you get like cheaper annual passes. That's a real big plus for Orlando for me. The other thing is that it's Florida, which has a lot of perks, right? Beach, sunshine.
Oh yeah. Aqua blue water.
Yeah. But it's a city, so it's not just full of old people. And that's really nice. Phil, we go to you.
The first of my 2 is Chicago. I went there for a vacation, and I'm first off going to completely wholeheartedly disagree with you. The Chicago deep dish was divine. Absolutely divine.
I've never tried it, but it doesn't appeal.
All right. I'm telling you, man. I tell you. The Chicago deep dish was good, so the food's good. I went there, and I actually went to a museum, and I found a lot of it very, not entertaining, but it drew me in. A lot of the art did, and that's actually something fairly unique, at least for me in my experience. I've been to a couple of museums, obviously, throughout all ages of my life, And but the Chicago Museum, I specifically remember, and I have a couple photos of like the portraits and stuff that really drew me in. So I really enjoyed the art scene there, at least for the museums. And then, of course, the life, the urban life. I really thought it was kind of cool to be underneath the trains. That was really cool, and I liked a lot of the buildings. It had this, it very much met this modern meets the past. It was right in between, especially on whatever junction you go to. I really love the aesthetic of the city. It really spoke to me. Not a big fan of the weather, but that's about it. David, you're second place.
And this is the golden goose. This is the greatest city in the United States, San Diego.
Wow.
Oh my goodness. And I'm going to try to squeeze this. We agreed on two things, so I got to try to squeeze as much into these two things I like about San Diego. Enjoying amazing tacos or burritos on the gorgeous beaches, which are way less busy than the LA ones, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then the downtown area has such an amazing vibe, from the gorgeous marina with a beautiful view of the Coronado Bridge and island to the fantastic skyline, which is not too obnoxious. And most of all, the nightlife. Oh my goodness, the nightlife in San Diego. I've had such fun nights there. The vibe is so nice. People are really friendly. Gaslamp District is probably one of the nicest places to go out. Yeah, absolute favorite is San Diego.
I do apologize. I actually had forgotten that we said 2, so I apologize for the last one. I didn't want you to think I was cheating you out of a detail.
It's okay.
I will go.
It's okay.
I will go with 1. Okay. For Colorado, I put Boulder, Colorado specifically. I went there, and again, I know that I'm going to go aesthetic, but it is. Words cannot describe how naturally beautiful this place is, and it really leans into that. It's almost like, I want to say something like Mount Rushmore, where yes, you realize it's a little manufactured and it's very clean, but it really does hedge into that wildlife aura, and I love it. I absolutely love Boulder, Colorado. It was an unexpected stop on a trip that I had that was just absolutely beautiful. I would go there 10 out of 10 times, and I could see myself living there at some point in time because of how beautiful it is. The weather's absolutely beautiful, and there's a lot of space there to where you can live and be away from the people. So between the ability to live there and kind of get and be alone with yourself, and with how beautiful it is, those are my 2 reasons why I would pick Boulder, Colorado.
And in this transnational episode, we move on to an international game coming at you from 3 countries. And we are delighted to welcome back a guest who's been on here before, my friend Alex. Welcome.
Thank you very much. Good morning, good afternoon, good night, whichever time zone you're in.
Yes, welcome back, Alex. For me, it's, I guess we can pull the curtain back a little bit. It's like 2 a.m. here. This is usually,
Jesus.
Yeah, this is around the time that I think, I usually get you around, 9 your time, David?
Yeah, 9 my time, 8 Alex's time.
Okay, so now the roles are reversing a little bit, and I'm a night owl myself, so this probably is my body clock of 9 p.m. for you guys anyways, so nothing to worry about here. Alex?
Philip, you're a big fan of role reversal, aren't you?
Don't get me to a good game of role reversal here. Before we begin our game, Alex, we're glad that we didn't scare you off the first time we played, but I don't believe we asked you questions the last time you were on. Let's begin by asking you some questions. Since you are a friend of David and, of course, his guest here on the podcast, I shall begin. Alex, what are 3 adjectives you would most like to represent you?
Ooh, you're really going in hard with the the soul-searching questions.
This is like a job interview.
Exactly. See, my first one that I always go to, and it's very boring. I remember having this conversation with my girlfriend a couple of months back, and we were having that same, what 3 words would you use to describe yourself? I think nice would be the first one, and like not nice in the kind of boring, nice way, but if there's like nice. One thing that I think I care about, it's like not being a bad person, if that makes any sense.
Yeah.
That would be my first one. Probably ambitious, maybe, is another one. I would I would stick with that. And what's a good compliment to those 3? I mean, if I'm being realistic, probably something like nerdy That's probably a reasonably accurate description of me. And
but do you want? It's not what you think you are. It's what would you want? What would you?
Oh,
want?
but I'm very happy to be described as nerdy. I'm a loud and proud nerd.
Okay, no, that's very good. I'm glad.
What about sensual or rugged? No.
I think you're confusing myself with yourself, David.
Look at that! Look at that! All right, go ahead, David. Ask him your question.
Alex, you mentioned, I think before we got on the air, that you've been watching the Olympics this morning.
Yes, I have been. I've been getting really into it the last week or so. Actually, I'm always a big fan of big sports events when there's a lot of hoopla around something.
Yeah, today is Sunday, August 1st, which means that I believe the men's 100-meter final is today.
Indeed.
Yeah, so Alex, if you could be an Olympic athlete, what sport would you choose?
Ooh, see, this is another conversation we were having yesterday, but more along the lines of, if at age 25 I were to try to get into the Olympics, what would be the way to maximize your odds? Would it be taking up archery or like some sport that where the number of competitors is low enough that you have a reasonably high chance
and where it doesn't require like ridiculous
levels of athleticism,
physical,
exactly.
like gymnastics or something, which takes like decades to master.
I mean, realistically, I would never be an Olympic level runner, but my sport is running, and that's probably what I've done the most of, definitely since high school and things. And I've done a couple of sort of half marathons and marathons and things, not to any kind of record-breaking time, but that's what I do most regularly. So that would probably be my Olympic sport. I was watching the triathlon on Friday night. They've got a great new event where it's mixed triathlon, so 2 women and 2 men, and that made me really want to try out a triathlon type thing. I've got a friend who just did one a couple of weeks ago, non-organized. His family just kind of joined him on different legs of the cycle and the swim and the run, and that looked really fun. That would be my aspiration, I think.
Alex, you gave me a wonderful question that I'm not going to ask you because that would be cheating, but just think about this, and maybe at the end of the podcast, in the back of your mind, maybe we'll circle back to it. But if they could have the Alex Triathlon, the one that you feel like you would succeed against the invading aliens, what 3 events would you choose to best compete at in your current state and where you are right now? Just to have that in the back burner.
All right, I'll give that a thought.
All right. Sure. My actual question that I wanted to ask you that I'm thinking maybe, just maybe, you and your girlfriend have not discussed in the past couple days. Is there such a thing as an ugly baby, and have you ever seen one?
Oh, for sure.
Are you willing to give out names? Are you willing to give out? No.
No, I'm not willing to risk any. It's no babies that are relations of anybody on this pod. That much I can.
Fair enough. Now I'm curious. Would you consider yourself to be a smoldering baby, or were you just like, yeah? Whenever you look at your baby pics,
I think I was a cute baby. I had one of those things. I think it's not that uncommon in babies where you've got some kind of pop blood vessel or something like in your eye where like one of your eyes is red for part of it.
Right.
So there are old pictures of me where like half of the eye is sort of red. That might be exaggerating it. But other than that, I think I was a good looking baby. I think
hideous.
I was a little Swedish blonde wunderkind.
David, were you an adorable baby?
I think I was actually.
Were you born with a beard, or did that just naturally grow?
I was not. I was born with a bit of hair, but only on my head.
Fair enough.
No, not on my face. I had no beard when I was born.
If I may be so bold, I was an adorable
rumors
baby.
Are untrue. Oh, I bet you were.
I'm not going to lie. I had a rough, what is that, child? When is it whenever you're past being a baby? Like toddlership? I had a tough toddlership, and like being a kid, like I wasn't going to win any Hallmark or any camera awards. But as a baby, get out of here. Get out of here. I absolutely killed the game. Speaking of games, I have created a game for us based off of what the rest of our podcast consists of. Of course, being LA versus New York, I thought, what better way to represent each place than via our stomachs? So I've come up with a game where David will take the helm with his LA themed food, and I will go with a New York style food that we will reveal as soon as it is our turn. David, who do you wish to go first?
Alex, who do you wish to go first?
Ooh, passing the buck.
I reckon Phil should go first.
All right, I shall go first, representing New York. It's your favorite zero-sum food. It's going to be the bagel. First question, here we go. A bagel is historically spelled beagle, B-E-I-G-E-L. It is a bread product originating in the Jewish communities of which country? Poland, Turkey, Jerusalem, or Germany? And we're going to start with you, Alex. Poland, Turkey, Jerusalem, or Germany?
Oh, I feel like...
I'm sure country, you mean Israel.
Modern day Israel, but if we're going back in time, whatever.
Okay.
I mean, I feel like Turkey's the least likely of those. I mean, there was definitely a Jewish community in Poland, right, that was sizable, and same in Germany as far as I understand. And I feel like bagels, I mean, this might be going out on a limb, but I feel like they're more of a northern hemisphere, or obviously Jerusalem's in the northern hemisphere, but like kind of a northern food, like it's a winter food, right? It's wholesome and hearty and stuff. So I'm going to say Poland.
All right, he says Poland. David, where do you go?
Just based on the spelling and the language element of it, you said B-E-I?
Yeah, B-E-I-G-E-L.
Yeah, I definitely think that Beigel sounds German, so I'm going to go with Germany.
One of you is correct. You're both wise to stay away from Turkey, Jerusalem, and Israel, whichever way you want to go. Unfortunately, Alex, you take an early lead here in Poland.
Hey.
There you go.
Man.
We have a 1-0 lead. Let us continue. David Gusson of Queens says he invented the everything bagel when, in a stroke of inspiration, he married poppy seeds with sesame seeds, salt, onion, and more. The longtime New Yorker remembers gliding into the Howard Beach Bakery on hockey skates for his first day of work. In which decade does he claim to have made this discovery? And David, we will go to you first. Of course, this is going to be 1960, 1970, 1980, or 1990. 60, 70, 80, or 90.
Yeah, I'm just thinking about like the rise of New York, which I really know so little about. I think I'm gonna just take a shot in the dark and go with 1970s.
1970. We go to you, Alex.
I mean, this is when I wish this was, Who Wants to Be a Millionaire, and you can do the 50-50 lifeline, just eliminate two of the options.
Right.
So David said, you said 70, right?
David said 70. Again, the options are
I'll
60.
go with you said roller skates, right?
Hockey skates. Hockey skates.
I feel like that's a 60s thing more than it could be an 80s thing. I'm going to say 80s.
He's going to go with 80s, and he's going to stick with it using the contextual clues. And he absolutely nails it in an impressive 2 for 2. It is indeed the 1980s. No. Right there. David, you have some work to cover and some ground to skate by.
I know.
An early 2-0 lead. Here we go. Next one, we'll go to Alex first. It was reported by U.S. newspapers in the early 1940s that bagels and lox were sold by delicatessens in New York City as a, quote, Sunday morning treat, end quote. And in the early 1950s, bagels and cream cheese combinations were very popular in the United States, having permeated American culture. And since I'm talking about cream cheese, what is the number one cow breed in the United States? We're talking Hereford, Black Angus, Texas Longhorn, or Limousin. All these are real breeds, by the way. I didn't create.
I was going to say before you gave me the options, I didn't know there were different breeds of cow.
There were tons. I researching this, there were like 50, I think. 50.
Can you repeat the last part, just the actual question itself?
Sure, absolutely.
The backstory. Again.
Yeah. What is the number one cow breed? Number one in terms of mass. Number one terms of actual current bred cows in the United States. We're talking Hereford, Black Angus, Texas Longhorn, and Limousin.
So I'm going to eliminate Black Angus and Texas Longhorn. I feel like Black Angus sounds fancy. It sounds like something you'd have for like the rare meats and stuff, which wouldn't be the most populous herd. And Texas, I'm just going to hope that that herd is restricted to the state of Texas, which is big, but not the entirety of the U.S. I'm going to go with Hereford.
Hereford, he says. And we go to you, David.
Well, I gotta pick something different, really, if I want to try to catch up. I'm gonna go with Black Angus. I'm gonna go with Black Angus.
Yet again, one of you's right. You're both correct to stay away from Texas Longhorn and Limousine, which again, I find that to be absolutely hilarious. And then we go forward. David, you have inched your way back. It is indeed Black Angus. And so he is one answer away from tying it up with you, Alex. But David does have to go first on this next one. The Einstein name for Einstein Bagel Company actually relates to the company's fictional founding brothers, Melvin and Elmo, not the scientist who originated the theory of relativity. However, Albert Einstein's net worth was how many dollars when he died in 1955? David, is it $560,000, $1.25 million, $2.5 million, or $4.7 million? And since you both are international, we're talking in terms of dollars. Again, that's $560,000, $1.25 million, $2.5 million, or $4.7 million.
You know, my instinct is to go low. Like my instinct is to go low. I don't associate Albert Einstein with being a millionaire. Not that, I don't know. I'm just gonna stick with my gut and I'm gonna go 500 and whatever thousand.
560,000, he says. How about you, Alex?
So when did he die again? Did you say that in the question?
I did. When he died in 1955.
1955, and we're talking $1955, not kind of converted to today's dollars.
Correct. I haven't done anything to adjust for inflation.
Right. So even 560,000 is a reasonable chunk of change in today's money. Then I won't go with 560,000, and he would have won a couple of Nobel Prize, or at least one Nobel Prize, right? And that's a prize fund in and of itself. I'll say 1.25 million.
You both were wise to stay away from 4.7 million and 2.5, and it is indeed $1.25 million, which means Alex has slid into the front. And because I only have 2 questions left, David, you'll have to nail both of these, which means Alex, you'll go first for the rest of the game. Here we go. Investment group JAB Holding Company announced on September 29th, 2014, that it acquired the Einstein Noah Restaurant Group for approximately $364. Never mind. We only have 1 question left because I completely forgot to take that out of the question. Anyways, that is a live flub right there. But in case you're wondering, they bought them for $364.5 million was how much the Einstein Brothers Bagel Company was bought for. Moving along. All right, last
so
question.
I've lost then?
We'll make this last one worth 2. And just,
I think that's fair. I think that's fair.
We'll make this last one worth 2, and if necessary, we'll go to a tiebreaker. Okay, David? Don't worry.
Okay.
Don't worry. Again, Alex, you're going to be going first here.
Yeah, sounds good.
All right. How many Americans, Alex, said that they had consumed bagels in the year 2020? Was it 102 million, 202 million, 302 million, or 402 million?
Well, it's definitely not 402 million because that's bigger than the population of the United States. And I feel like 302 million would still be an incredibly large percentage. Bagels are a popular food, and it's just like that they'd consumed at least one over the course of a year. I'll go with 202 million.
He will go with 202 million. David, he's left you 3 other options. Yeah,
well, I mean, again, 402 million, again, is greater than the population of the United States. So I'm going to not go with that. 302,
if you
like
count
Alex
dogs
said,
and cats and anybody else who might.
Anybody who can press a button to say yes.
Definitely bears.
Oh, yeah, of course, naturally.
Yeah, and 302 just seems like that's pretty much every American besides like infants and toddlers. So I'm going to I have to pick something different, so I'm going to go with 102 million.
And Alex, your nose and intuition were correct. It is indeed 202 million Americans said that they had consumed bagels in the year 2020. And thus, you have beaten David in the bagel game. You did not get a 0. You are a hero. Congratulations, Alex.
Thank you very much. Revenge at last.
Yes, that's true. Last time he was able to smite you. This time I'm hoping that I can get over that hurdle with David's game. David, please tell us what food you were given.
Now, my quiz is going to be about avocados. And Phil, I don't think we covered this. Why did we choose 6 questions? Let me let the listeners know why all of a sudden it's this weird 6-question game.
The reason why it was 6 was because I was very tired when I sent you our lineup and thought that a baker's dozen was 6. I apologize. I apologize. And therefore it was 6 or 13. And by the time I had come back to amend that mistake, you had already created a brilliant quiz, so I adhered to it as well.
All right. So I'm doing avocados, and unlike Phil's quiz, mine has everything to do with avocados and not weird things about Einstein's net worth when he died. So here we go. In what modern day country did avocados originate? Alex, you will go first. Okay, 1, the United States. 2, Mexico. 3, South Africa. And 4, the Democratic Republic of the Congo.
I'm going to guess Mexico, just given that avocados are a staple of Mexican cuisine as far as I know.
Sorry,
although it could be that it's more Tex-Mex.
Yes.
No worries.
Yeah, somebody's trying to phone a friend right now, and that's me.
Exactly.
All right,
but I'll go for Mexico.
You know what? That was my first inclination. I'm not trying any form of strategy, so I'm just going to stick with it, and I'll find a wiggle room somewhere later if I'm trying to gain an edge on Alex. So I will say Mexico.
Well, you both say Mexico, and you're both correct.
Hey.
Obviously, the correct answer. And that one had to be our first question, because otherwise, later questions would have given it away. All right, the word avocado comes from the Nahuatl word ahuacatl, which was also sometimes used to mean something else. What was the other meaning? An elderly person, poop or turd, testicle, or armadillo? And Phil, this time we go to you first. Would you like to hear the options again?
No, I think I got a hold of them. I'm going to go with armadillo.
Okay. Alex.
Yeah, I think you could go a number of different directions with this, right? Is it color? Is it texture? Is it size and shape? I feel like it might be poop. I feel like I'm going to go out on a limb and guess that that's the answer.
All right, well.
Poop is always the answer, Alex.
Exactly.
You
both are incorrect.
Oh,
I thought this was my favorite question.
Yeah, very well constructed question, David. Very nice.
Yes, the correct answer was testicle. Actually,
that was my number 2.
Yeah,
nobody's
Alex,
testicle is that size. That's medically impossible.
Speak for yourself, Alex.
That's the point. I don't think that's the point, but you were definitely right on the right sort of frame of mind, Alex. It was something to do about shape, color, texture, maybe whatever.
Maybe taste. Who knows?
Yeah, the correct answer is testicle. I absolutely loved putting poop in my quiz. And armadillo, also incorrect. All right, here's a little fun fact to sort of give you a break from the questions. The name guacamole comes from aguacamole, which means avocado soup or sauce. All right, our third question. You are 1-1, guys. The water requirements for avocado production are how many times higher than that for tomato production?
Oh, okay.
10, 18, 25, or 30 times higher? Alex, we'll go to you.
I think my issue here, well, apart from not knowing anything about farming whatsoever, I think my issue is I also don't know how much water tomatoes require, if that's sort of lower than average for a given vegetable. Or I know almonds need crazy amounts of water, and I imagine avocados are a similar kind of, I know they get a somewhat bad rap environmentally, so maybe 18 times the amount of water that tomatoes require.
Okay. And Phil?
List me the percentages one more time, please.
Sorry, times, like as in
Well,
multiple. Like,
sure,
so
yes.
10 times, 18 times, 25 times, or 30 times higher.
Wow. I think with no scientific backing whatsoever, I'm going to go with 30 times because I think they need that much more deliciousness.
Well, one of you is correct.
Oh, God.
So 10 and 25 were very much wrong. Avocados require 3 times more water than apples. And Alex, you were correct. 18 times more water than tomatoes. So
Can I say I know my avocados?
Alex, you are 2 correct answers to Phil's 1. And we move on to question 4. Which country is today responsible for the most avocado production globally?
Oh.
Is it Mexico, the OG avocado country, Brazil, Peru, or the United States? And Phil, we go to you first this time.
I'm going to say, just because I think that they have much more of a vibrant environment that I think that they've been able to farm more on. And I'm sure Alex is going to have a far better thought out process than I am possibly thinking of, rather than just like, oh, there's a lot of green. I'm going to go with the Brazil.
All right.
I'm torn between Brazil and the US, but I'm going to go with the US. I think it's just there's so much demand for avocados in the US that I think despite whatever climate advantages Brazil might have, I think the US probably beats it in terms of overall production.
Well, you're both wrong. You fell into my trap of making you feel like, oh, it can't be Mexico. It is Mexico. Mexico,
Wow.
they did it first, and they still do it
Good
best.
for Mexico.
They
Yeah,
hold the
avocado
crown.
production requires very specific climate, and Peru is responsible for the most exports to Europe. So that's interesting. But Mexico overall produces by far the most avocado. I think it's like twice or 3 times more than the next biggest producer of avocados.
I wonder how
All
much
right,
less expensive avocados are in Mexico.
Oh, probably a lot. So you guys are still Alex 2, Phil 1. There are 2 questions left, so all to play for still. Which California county is responsible for the largest portion of avocado production in California?
Okay.
And this time we go to Alex first. Is it Los Angeles County, Riverside County, which just for reference is directly east of
I appreciate
Los
that.
Angeles, Kings County, which is north of Los Angeles County, or San Diego County, which is where you would expect it would be?
If I know my LA geography correct, which I definitely don't, I think LA County is, almost purely urban, right? Purely built, so it can't be that. By my reckoning, Riverside sounds nice and avocado-y. I'm going to go with Riverside.
That's delightful. I love that. That's the first time I've ever heard Alex pull a my thought process on this entire game. All right, so he picked Riverside. What was not LA and what not Riverside? San Diego.
So it's Los Angeles, Riverside, Kings County, and San Diego County.
Let me tell you something, David. If Kings County is not the king of the avocados and the testicles of California, then I don't know what is. We're going to go Kings County, and we're going to take this victory home.
Again, you're both wrong.
God damn it.
The correct answer is San Diego County. And
dang it.
If anything, your clue was it's one of the 2 counties that's closest to Mexico. So San Diego County. And if we have a tie, that may pop up again.
All right.
Seedless avocados, which are just unfertilized flowers of the avocado tree, often appear on avocado trees. They are usually thrown out due to small size. What are they called in the avocado industry?
Testes.
Fantastic. Is it 1, cukes, 2, rusks, 3, diminutos, or 4, gwens?
Alex, you got to go first.
We go to Alex first. If you would like me to say them again or spell them, then let me know.
I like the idea of diminutos. I think that's a cute name for the discarded lonely avocados.
This feels like an Akbar trap, but I will go with the rusks. It sounds like husks. It sounds like it's right there. And I know David's probably laughing himself off to the bank here that I fell for it, but I got to go with it.
You're both wrong, unfortunately. Rusks. Rusks is the name of a South African biscuit that you dip in like tea or coffee.
Oh.
And diminutos is something I completely made up based on how I thought I might trick you with a Spanish word.
Yeah, well,
kudos.
Gwen's is I think it's a certain breed of avocado or something. A cuke is a unfertilized avocado fruit, and it is often thrown out. Cukes was the correct answer.
Right.
So, Alex, you pull away 2-1 with a win here. Congratulations.
Oh, is that the last question?
That was
the sixth question.
Yes, commiserations.
Question number 6.
Like was just getting warmed up. He was like, "Oh, come on!"
Exactly. I could have asked questions about avocados all day.
I kind of want to do the tiebreaker just for funsies.
Oh shoot! Go ahead.
Let's go for it.
How much of California's avocado production happens in San Diego County? It's a percentage, and closest wins.
How much percentage happens in? Let's go with. Did you say how much of California's or how much of the United States?
California's.
Then I think it'd probably be high. I'm gonna go with like 63%.
I will go with 41%.
And Phil, so unbelievably close. It was 60% is the correct answer. So that
well done.
That was brilliant. If you had forced a tie, if you had not gotten the last question wrong, then you would have had a victory this week. But alas,
I'm now very hungry for an avocado bagel.
Yes, an avocado bagel, absolutely. Now, alas, we last hear unwithered and like the koki or whatever it is that you just said, that there are those withered avocados, unfertilized. Yes,
they're not withered. They're just small unfertilized.
I don't need to hear about these avocado testicles anymore. People get it. They're done with the joke. It's over, David. Okay, we move along. Thank you so much, Alex. Is there anything? I believe last time we gave you this assignment. Next time you came on.
Triathlon. What about the triathlon?
Oh, there is the triathlon. Did you come up with anything, Alex?
I haven't got a fully formed triathlon yet, but I feel like there would be some kind of spreadsheet task involved in the middle there. Excel has to get involved in some way.
Oh, no.
Probably some type of public speaking-y thing. I feel like you could judge that like you do with gymnastics, right? There's a jury of people and things. And then maybe a trivia contest of some sort, a Star Wars trivia or something along those lines.
Okay. All right. So if the aliens come and they, for some odd reason, desire an Excel spreadsheet with public speaking and what was the last one?
Star Wars.
Star Wars trivia contest.
And it's Darth Vader up there saying, "Talk about me." Then we have a shot. We have a shot to not get Death Starred. So awesome.
I wouldn't rate our chances too highly.
Sure, well, yeah, but at least we have the best person for the job at the very least. So, Alex, is there anything that you want to plug before we bid you adieu?
Nothing at all. Hope everybody's having a good August. It's vacation month in Europe, so I am hoping there won't be much work to do and reasonable weather to enjoy. Yes. The end of the Olympics and some beach time. Yes,
the Olympics, I believe our women's soccer soundly defeated the Netherlands the past couple of days ago. I did connect on that.
Well, we soundly defeated you at the beginning of the competition, so it might come down to a Sweden-USA game at the end of it.
Yes, we aren't as dominant as we once were. So we will see. And Alex, if it comes to pass, I'll be sure to send David a note to pass along to you. But awesome. Thank you so much for joining us, Alex. We appreciate it.
Thank you very much for having me.
Yes, we move along to the scores. And with that game, I move to a minuscule 7-14 winning record. All but. And David moves to a 9-12 record.
Oh, yeah. It slaps. It's about to slap. So, Phil, last week or the week before, you recommended to me, or you were like, oh, I listened to the whole Dua Lipa album, and like it's really good. So I realized I had listened to several songs from it, but I hadn't listened to the whole album. So this past week I listened to that album, And obviously you got a lot of the huge hits on there, which are great. You know, I really I think Dua Lipa's fantastic. I think her music is actually really good, well produced. It's got something new, something fresh. It feels a little bit more unique than a lot of the cliche, uncreative, cookie cutter music that you hear on the radio, the sort of pop music that you hear these days. It's got something funky, something.
You were the first person I discovered "Don't Start Now" from Dua Lipa with.
Oh yeah,
you and me were driving around.
That's got such a a funky it literally slaps. Like there's literally slapping bass in that. So the song that I'm bringing is "Pretty Please" on that album. Like it's just such a cool song. Again, it also literally slaps. Like it's really good. Pretty Please, which is not one of the big hits from that album, but it's really good. So Pretty Please by Dua Lipa.
As you know, I always try to go along with our theme of the week whenever picking my That Slaps, finding something that slaps that fits within the theme. And I will go, it was either between California Girls, which I didn't think you'd enjoy, but or this one, and I chose this one that I think you will absolutely love and appreciate having on the playlist. It's going to be the Eagles' Hotel California.
Good choice, yeah.
I don't know how anybody could not say that song slaps. It's a scooch long, but even then, every part of that song is just absolutely divine. The fact that you can find multiple meanings out of it. It's an absolute classic for a reason. The guitar riff is fantastic. Hotel California by the Eagles, that slaps. As we head out of here to our jet plane to go to various places across the United States, we do have a few notes and things to take care of before we sign out here. First of all, we'd like to thank Tara Amstutz and Josh Hans for their contributions to the show. Tara for her graphic design, and of course Josh for his wonderful and delightful musical interludes in between some of the spaces here on the podcast. Thank you so much, guys. It really means a lot.
Thank you to Cass and Crossland for our intro and outro music, and to Jake Corlang for the greatest bass line ever to grace your ears. We'd like to thank you guys for listening wholeheartedly, and we'd like to ask you to tune in next week. Follow us on Instagram at POWWOW_podcast. And you find a whole backlog of shows on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, and pretty much anywhere except for Pandora.
Yeah, because screw you, Pandora.
Yeah. And with that, we will see you next week.
Hey, Grandpa Joe, what's that in your fishing net? Is it a fish? Is it a peach?
No, it's a bear.